So build these into your scripts, folks. When you're writing sales scripts, build these things into it. Can I just ask, by the way, incidentally, there's plenty more question softeners. They're just a few examples you can start with. And I never just take an order when you're a salesperson. Some people in sales take an order. They forget that if you asked more questions, you'd probably get more sales than that. I ask questions all the time. Then after every question, I listen attentively and give out positive strokes. That's how I can play dumb, especially when I'm on the telephone or you know, when you're face-to-face with a sales prospect and they're answering questions for you, what should you be doing? Nodding and taking notes. Why do you take notes in a sales scenario? So they think you are listening. You're interested in them. Vital, almost vital. So the question cycle then basically looks like this. You ask a question, you listen, you give them a positive stroke, you ask another question, not a physical stroke, positive. By positive stroke, it can be a simple thing like, oh really? Oh, okay, that's interesting. Would you mind if I make notes on that? And you have to keep going, question, 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 question. Your goal is to get as many statements out of them as you can. Okay, so we'll see who wins, who can get the most statements out of the other person. Trip them up as many times as you can in 3 minutes. Is it clear what we're doing?
Thank you.
Did anyone get right through that without making a statement? Did anyone get right through that? A couple of you, excellent. How many of you lost big time, you know? Interesting. Can you ask a question? What do you think? Do you think it's a statement? Why would you not make that a statement? What she basically said, because I'll get out of the mode, is that if someone replies with a statement and then tacks a question on the end, is that still a statement? Absolutely. The only thing you're allowed to use in the game was a question. There isn't a, gee, that was a good question, let me just think about my answer and then eventually I'll make up a question. How many of you noticed yourself doing that? You know, you started to answer them and then you thought, oh bugger, I got to add a question on the end here. No, by the way is just a question softener. Absolutely you can. That was the game. But the game was, just because you guys made mistakes in the game, don't start attacking the game. No? They'd be like, oh, cricket's stupid, you know, they have to throw the ball down from one end to the other. Just because you couldn't get it down there. Like, the whole point of the game was ignore their question, just keep firing questions at them to stuff them up. Because the whole point of the process is, do you think in questions or do you think in answers? Because too many of us think in answers, and when we go to this whole point of making a sale, and the person asks us about something about the product, and we start telling them the answer. Or if someone says, does it go both left and right? You'd say, oh, which way do you want it to go? We want it to go right. Excellent, we can make it that way. See, if you answer questions too easily, you will lose the sales scenario. Why? Who is in control? The person asking the question or the person answering it? Asking. If you let them run the sales scenario, who's going to lose? You are, because they're going to lead you to price objections, to You know, got to check with the partner objections, got to do this objections. You've got to keep control of that process. When you do actually say stuff, because you do give out little bits of information as you go, when you do actually say it, you've got to say it in what language? Everybody? Very few auditories in this group, isn't there? So, some questions that are vital to the sales process. Number one is the authority question. It goes something like this. Mary or Bob or Harry, whoever you're talking to, who other than yourself will be involved in making this decision? Or who other than yourself would be involved in making a purchasing decision like this? Who other than yourself would be involved in a decision of this magnitude? Is that a vital question to ask before you go see someone? Absolutely. How many of you have been caught and they have said, oh, I have to check with my partner or my wife or et cetera, et cetera? Is that a waste of time in life? Absolutely. Get around it by asking this before you go see anyone. Another vital question that we need to learn to ask is the finances question. I always preface it this way. Mary, obviously finances are important. Can I ask what budget you've set aside for this purchase? What answer will I get 99% of the time? Oh, we don't actually have a budget yet.
We're on the pension.
Well, no, I don't often get the we're on the pension objection yet. Well, in fact, if they are on the pension, they will have set a budget. Because they're budgeters, pensioners. Everything's planned meticulously. Because what else do you do with a day where you've got nothing to do? So how do I handle it if they say to me, oh, we haven't set a budget for this yet? I say, well, give me a ballpark then. Are you looking at $5, $500, or $5,000? What ballpark are you in? Does that make sense to everyone? Or you can make your ballpark 100, 200, 300, or 400,000, 500,000, 600,000. You can always ask that question. Vital to know before you go see someone. So after you've reached emotion and gathered information, I always use a very simple line. Based on what you've told me, Trudy, either this or this will suit you best. So based on what you've told me, and that's the most important part of the line. Once I've said, based on what you've told me, what's happened? Can they argue with what I'm saying? Now, might I add a couple of details in there? Yeah, you know, based on the fact that you mentioned this and this and this, Bob, I'd recommend either solution X or solution Y. When you've offered a solution, you check their temperature and you ask a detailed question. Well, let me go back then. Okay. I'm a shorthand kind of guy. Based on what you told me, name, Harry, Bob, Mary, either X or Y solution will suit you best. So once I've offered them a solution, I check the prospect's temperature and ask them a detailed question. You remember this from the funnel? Okay, it's just a simple sales process, that funnel. And the way I do temperature checking is I ask a simple question. How does that fit with what you had in mind? Am I asking them to buy? No. I'm asking them, how did the solution I gave you fit with what you had in mind? Can we go back one again? Check the caller's temperature and ask them a detailed question. How does that fit with what you had in mind? Now, what is going to be their answer at this point? Either it's not really what I had in mind. Now, if they say it's not really what I had in mind, what is your next question? Yeah, well, tell me then, what could we do to it to make it exactly like what you had in mind? Yeah, this is added on top of that part there. Well, you wouldn't have closed them at this point. What you'll have said is you've basically said, James, based on what you told me, you know, either this or that would suit you best. How does that fit with what you had in mind? So you added on to that last one we put up there. Does that make sense? So I've given them my solutions. I'm now saying, how does that fit with what you had in mind? Or I can change it slightly and say this one. Which one fits best with what you had in mind? You know, we can run a 6-week advertising campaign and go to an auction at the end, Bob, to sell your house, or we can do it straight off on a 4-week campaign and hopefully sell it. Which one fits best with what you had in mind? The either-or temperature question. Then we ask a detail question to assume the sale. And every one of us has different detail questions for what we sell. You know, would you like that delivered on a Wednesday or a Friday? Got an appointment free tomorrow at 2 and one at 4. Which would suit you best? Would you prefer to put that on credit card or pay by check? Which credit card is it easiest to process that on? What time of the day would it be best for delivery for you? So many different questions you can ask in order to confirm the sale. But we never ask, do they want to buy or not? And then if you have a detailed process to actually make the sale, you use this line. This is great for real estate. Those of you in real estate or mortgage broking, anything like that. Would it be okay if I outlined what we need to do to get that underway? Would it be okay if I outlined what we need to do to get that underway? What am I then going to do? I'm going to give them 3 things that need to happen. What will one of those 3 things be? Cash. Pay now. So, for instance, I might say, first thing I've got to do is confirm what's the best time of day to do your open houses. The second thing I have to do is first thing I've got to do is confirm which dates will be best to have your open houses if I'm in real estate, for example. Second thing I've got to do is run you through the paperwork of exactly how we're going to operate in the sales process. And the third thing I have to do is arrange your payment for the others. So, which date suits you best for an open house? Do I stop after I've listed the 3 things we need to do? Because what's the third thing always? Cash. I go straight back to number 1, which is to confirm a minor detail. Does that make sense? Okay, so we can all use that. You just need to develop it for your own way. But I love that close because it's such an easy, simple one. You're just going over details. Getting information. This is a real simple but powerful one. How many of you know the power of silence? If I want someone's phone number, I say, Judith, I just need your phone number. It's... What do you feel like giving me? Phone number. Or, you know, Bob, I just need your address. It's... And they just start giving it to you because there's like this silence. Handling objections. Let me give you my 5-step process to handling objections. Hopefully you will not get them, but in reality you will. So when you do, you need to follow a very simple process. Step one of an objection. Ah, that's too expensive. What is your first words out of your mouth? Oh, I know you see it as too expensive. Do you disagree with their objection? Never. Why? Because then it becomes a battle. It's a right-wrong thing. Oh, I know you see it as too expensive. Are there any other reasons besides it being a little too expensive in your mind? Why am I asking, are there any other reasons besides X, Y, Z, whatever their reason is? Because 9 times out of 10, the reason they give you is not what? The real reason they're objecting. Okay? So then we said, we make a simple statement. Let's say, if their statement was, I don't have the money. Well, if we could find a way, Judith, to make sure you did have the money to do with this, of course you'd want to go ahead, wouldn't you? What am I doing there? I'm checking and making certain that there are no other reasons. Does that make sense? And so if we could find a way to solve the money problems, Judith, you'd want to go ahead, wouldn't you? Great. So what have I just found out? I've only got to solve how many objections now? 1, the money problem. So as soon as I've solved that, what's Judith said? She'll go ahead. So the next one. If they say no to that, you ask this question. Well, Judith, there must be another reasons besides the money problem. Can I ask what that is? Does that make sense to everybody? If they've said no after you've said, if we could find a solution to the money problem, you'd want to go ahead, wouldn't you? If they say no, you say, well, Judith, there must be another reasons besides the money problems. Can I ask what that is? See, all of this is still to just get to the bottom of it. What is the problem? If they say yes, you use this line. Then, Judith, let's invest some time looking at how we can handle the money challenge for you. Because what is the biggest problem with an objection? Is it the actual objection that creates the problem? No, it's the fact that it gets you out of conversation. How do most people handle an objection? Oh, yeah. And they get stunned by it. And the moment you get stunned by an objection, you've just actually lost the momentum and the velocity of the sale. This whole process gets you back into building velocity. Does that make sense? Two or three people in a group and they're disagreeing on whether they make the purchase. Okay. They each have different points if you're selling to a group. Okay. How many of you have found that when you're selling to a group, there is always one key decision maker in the group? Have you all found that? Okay. I've always found that there's that one key person. Okay. Now, if I've got 3 people disagreeing when I'm actually selling to them, I just say to them, look, I understand that you guys are disagreeing on stuff. Let me be the problem solver for you. What is it that you want out of this? Great. What is it that you want? What is it that you want? Great. If I can provide a solution that will do all of those things for you, are we happy to go ahead? Yes or no? Does that make sense? Because one of the biggest challenges in sales is the salesperson is unwilling to name what's going on. In other words, if the person's being very aggressive with you, what is it you say to them? Hey, I'm not sure why, but you seem to be being very aggressive with me here today. What's the first thing out of their mouth? 1 or 2 things. Yeah, I am, so get out. So you leave. Or, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be aggressive, just such and such has happened and I was just thinking of other things. So you keep that in balance in your mind. Good question. Being professional in sales. Develop a sales kit. That's part of your pre-frame stuff that we talked about. What is in your sales kit? Second one, dress well. In most occasions, it's still appropriate to wear the blue suit. Some places now we've gone a little more casual than that. But I still find if I'm the salesperson, I want to be the best dressed person in the room. I can always take my coat and tie off.
I don't have a blue suit.
Pardon?
I don't have a blue suit.
Good, go shopping. Blue suit, black shoes, white shirt, tie with red in it. Red blouse, thingy, whatever, scarf for ladies. Always be on time. Can you ever be on time? No, you can always be early. Another professional thing about salespeople is keeping in touch. If you said you will call Tuesday, call Tuesday. Pre-frame a prospect, we've already talked about. Do your homework. How many of you do your homework on prospects before you go in to see them? Okay, you've got to start doing that. Jump on the internet, look at their website if they're a company that you're going to sell to. Find out a bit about them. Find out a bit about their industry. Call their business, pretend to be a customer. If you're selling to end users, do your homework on people in that area. Before you send a flyer into a suburb, know what's going on in that suburb. Read the local newspaper. Keep testimonials, vitally important. How do you get testimonials? You ask people for them. If you don't ask customers for testimonials, you won't get them. Being professional, page 2, build rapport. Find what's most important to your prospect. Always follow up, ask for referrals, send thank you cards, be consistent. Oh, hang on. I thought there was one more. And be consistent. When we are selling, folks, how do I put this nicely? Is sales a lot simpler than most people make it out to be, yes or no? Yeah, absolutely. If I can give you a simple analogy of how easy sales is. If I've called you, or you've called me, and I've agreed for you to come see me, do I assume that there is a need there, yes or no? Yes. If you've agreed to have me come see you, or that I've agreed to come and see you, there's got to be a need there. There's got to be a want, got to be some level of desire for something. The question is, do you have the flexibility to find out what it is that they are after? Do you have the flexibility to find out what their pain is that's allowed them to give you the appointment? Do you have that flexibility to ask enough questions? Because if you use the purpose statement, you follow it up by asking the questions, you then go into a simple thing of checking their temperature after you've offered them some solutions, and then you ask a detailed question. And if you do come down to it, you use the questions to get yourself back into the flow if you get an objection. Is sales a simple process, yes or no? Yes or no? What creates a mastery of sales, though?
Mastery of the process.
Testing and measuring. Most salespeople, how many of you know someone in sales that has used the same opening line for 30 years even though it doesn't work? Any retail shop, basically. Hi, can I help you? So, back through the notes. Top 4 things you've learnt about sales today. Top 4 things you learnt about sales today. You have 40 seconds to get 4 things. Thanks, Maestro. Only been up once, you have to sit down. Come on, get up if you haven't been up there. Those that have not been up, get up. Front mic.
Test and measure.
Test and measure, very good, very important. Back mic.
Objectives aren't problems if it keeps them talking.
Sorry,
Objections aren't really problems if it keeps them talking.
Absolutely. If you've got to keep them talking from the objections. Front mic.
How important it is to sell to the different behavioural types, specifically to them?
Absolutely. DISC, very important. Back mic.
Eye testing.
The
Eye testing.
eyes, okay, yep, absolutely. Which way they go?
Purpose statement.
Having a purpose statement, yeah, it's vital, especially in many of the industries that sell white, you know, just to business.
Listen.
Thank you, yeah.